silent.
Thanks for that. Thank you. So, yep.
How you doing, Bob?
All right.
Good, Brian, how are you?
All right, let's call the meeting to order. Welcome everyone to a new budget season. There are a couple of us who are not here, but we do have a quorum. So let's just step into the agenda, everyone has it. So first we have to do nomination and election of chair. I will just say that I would like to do it again, but
Ron Schneider for Chairman, chairperson.
any questions? Anybody else?
Get a second?
Yeah, second, Bob.
I told you not to second him. What's wrong with you?
I'm sorry?
Away we go.
So are there any other nominations?
I'll nominate Bob.
Okay, Bob, any second for Bob?
What am I nominated for?
The chair.
No.
Okay, Bob declines. Any other nominations? Bob declines the nomination. All right, no further nominations. All in favor? All opposed? Mark's opposed. So that's 4-1. Nomination election of vice chair. I'll nominate Brian.
I second it.
Any other nominations for vice chair? All right, so all those in favor of Brian? Mark opposed, right? 4-1. All right, Mike,
Are we there
you're
already?
there?
Wow.
We're there. I know we have
Fantastic.
we have a budget overview.
Let me just first start by, once again, I don't wanna be a broken record, but I think it's so important to note, I wanna compliment Jody. And she had a little bit of support from others and certainly for our department heads. But I think you'll see that this year's budget book is absolutely well done. It starts with the table of contents, by the way, which we heard last year was a very important piece, and I agree. Much easier to navigate, but Jody, a fantastic job this year, you put a lot of effort into this. On page 1 of your budget book is a letter, a memo from Jody and myself. And we can kind of walk through that, but that is basically a high-level overview, which the selectmen heard last night. But we talk about the budget is kind of, again, at a high-level overview. And I'll start with our proposed new positions this year. And one is for an equipment operator for the Public Works Department. The thought process behind that is that will help us to reduce our reliance on subcontractors for snow removal and maybe for some other duties. And I think our goal is to continue to have that department grow very methodically, but it gives us the opportunity to have 2 crews working in the summer and our own plow operators more working in the winter time. The subcontractors are very important to us, but if we had a subcontractor who could not come through or complete their effort, we are very vulnerable in snow removal efforts. So we've put in for that position. The other is a part-time year-round program assistance in the recreation department. That is in the enterprise account. You'll see that toward the rear of your book when we get to that point. And that would come out of totally enterprise account funds. It's not out of taxation whatsoever. And the other one would be what I've entitled an HR director. And that's a position right now, as we know, we use Betsy Olton as an HR consultant. And Betsy and I have met, and funny story is I called to see if she had some time to meet over coffee. She was reaching out to me at the exact same time. Our topic was exactly the same. It's time for the town to move over to its own internal HR director, manager, insert name here. Betsy's not able to dedicate the amount of time that we need for a municipality this size. I can go through a litany of duties that an HR director does. I have 4 pages of them. I don't wanna take up a lot of time with that. But it is a huge array of duties and responsibilities. And Betsy's just not able to meet those needs. And that's not a criticism of her whatsoever. She has a large array of clients and a community of 12,000 people year-round and, you know, larger in the summer, and with the employee workforce that we have. And also the potential that we may be blending the WIMS operation under the town. And that's because WIMS came to the Board of Selectmen on December 17th. and asked for the town to do an exploration study of the blending or merger of the two organizations. If that or when that becomes effective, one way or the other, I'm not sure where it'll go, but we're exploring it. We could inherit up to 40 per diem personnel and potentially the addition of additional fire personnel. And so our workforce, although we're trying to make sure that we contain the number of people we have, it may inherently grow simply through that merger. And that puts more and more burden on the HR position. Quite honestly, Betsy and I are in sync pretty well. And I'm trying to do a fair number of the HR duties that she's not able to get to. And again, it's not a commentary on her. We have an HR generalist, that's Tammy, who's across the hall. Tammy handles benefits administration, a great amount of the onboarding, but at the same time, she's doing accounts payable and payroll. And I remember before I even started here, I was starting to meet some of the employees, and I sat with Tammy and I said, what happens if you get sick or hit by the proverbial bus? And we have some backup systems in place, and one that we had to utilize this week. And due to a number of circumstances, Tammy, who has a vacation this week, had to come in today to process payroll. Only because our backup system had been removed from the workforce because of family emergency. And so there we were. And normally in HR department, you'd have the backup, in this case, the director would handle the payroll operation if the backup to the backup wasn't available.
Mike, excuse me, does she do the whole payroll, the soup to nuts? Or do you outsource some of it?
No, soup to nuts.
Wow.
Yeah, we don't use an outside source, which is a cost savings.
Oh, yeah.
Huge cost savings, but it is and think about doing payroll, accounts payable.
It's a boatload.
It's a boatload. And many of our admins in our various departments handle the initial pieces of the accounts payable function by reviewing it and tying it out to where it should go. And step in for me, Jody, but those step processes, we try to handle at a department level where we can, but ultimately it lands with Tammy and Jody's team to push that out. So there's a big burden on that. Yeah, Mark.
So Mike, I got a question. We used to have an in-house HR person who the last town
Right.
manager pushed out. And they said that we should be able to go to a secondary person instead. What's changed that we can't afford to do that anymore?
Can't afford to do.
The outside source. I mean, the whole idea from
So using an outside consultant.
Yeah.
Yeah, so what's changed in this case, and Betsy Olton is a phenomenal HR consultant. She has a variety of clients, her availability to us does not meet our needs, and she's the first to tell us that. And talking with Matt Tarasevich, who helps us as an attorney for our personnel pieces, Matt would be the first to say also, there are not many people going into that as HR consultants. I truly believe that it's very important to have somebody on the ground who can be a resource to employees and also a resource to the manager, and understanding that they have a foot in both sides, but the confidentiality they have with employees should not ever be violated by the manager. However, the manager needs to very effectively manage the HR director in the fashion that they are a department head. And so they can't establish close relationships with a group of people, but not another group. They have to do very much what I do, try to support everyone, but we don't get overly chummy with anyone. It just has to work that way.
so ultimately we shouldn't have gotten rid of the position before that we had.
I won't go back there.
Well, it is saying it. I
And-
mean, it's
But and I'm sure there were a number of factors. One of the things that I did do, Mike Cuniff did a report on the HR function, in the HR department. And I've known Mike, does excellent work. I've read his report numerous times, as recently as yesterday afternoon before I met with the selectmen. And Mike had interviewed many employees, and there were about 19 who had signed a petition, if you would, whatever, to suggest that it needed to be outsourced. And there were a number of reasons I understand why they had that position. I have gone back and met with several of those employees, not all 19. And every single one of them has said, we think this function should come back in-house, but be properly managed. And that's where I think it's incumbent upon the town manager to establish those boundaries and to make sure that the job description is adhered to, and that we do it right. And you're a community, in my opinion, that needs to go back to that in-house HR person. But again, it all falls back to being properly managed, in my opinion. Yeah, Mark?
I got two questions. Is there a union rep that represents the town employees? I'm assuming there is.
So that we have 4 unions, but you're talking about the general government would be the functions up here. And so they do represent some personnel, they don't represent department heads, they don't represent the HR function. And then we have police, fire, and public works. And so one of the things that an HR director, and Betsy sat in on negotiations 2.5 years ago. When I first came, that was one of the first things we did. And Betsy sat in on that, she took copious notes, she could give some guidance from what other communities are doing. And her time allocated for that equated to about $22,000 that she invested in that. In my prior life, as in another town, we didn't use outside legal counsel, nor did we this time, when we negotiated the 4 contracts here. And that worked very effectively. But I used the in-house HR director in Kennebunk, that's where I was, we all know that. And I think that that's a critical position to sit at the table. They're not part of the real negotiation, but they can talk about best practices and they look at the landscape across, all of York County, Cumberland County, and so we have good data that helps us to make decisions on how we should look at employee request and and so that's the function. So
The other question that I've got for you, I didn't realize there was 40 employees in WEMS. I kind of want to go back to WEMS, but
sure.
With this merger, how much in assets are we talking about that WEMS has that?
Way too premature, I couldn't say. We had our first meeting Monday afternoon, and it's a strategic planning group that's comprised of personnel from WEMS, the director, and from the fire department and town and the board of selectmen. And so we've got a lot of deep dive exploration to do. WEMS currently, last I knew, had about 42 per diem personnel. And so our pledge, I think, as a strategic planning group is to make sure that whatever we do going forward, that those members continue to have viable positions so that their hours can be included in the overall service delivery. And Brian, is that fair?
Yeah.
And so we know that we're going to inherit, if that goes through, we don't know that it will, but if it should go through, we'll inherit those folks.
As far as like the trucks and that kind of stuff, I mean, does the town own that or is that?
Their vehicles?
The vehicles, yes.
Yeah,
Who owns
so
those vehicles?
interesting, when I first came, we found that the town owned some of them, but they were insured by WEMS. That didn't work very well. You can't insure something you don't own. Fast forward, we deeded those, if you would, titled those over to WEMS. They insure them, they own them. At the same time, we built an agreement in place that should WEMS go out of business or merge, that equipment all reverts to the town. Remember, the town's been buying a large portion of those pieces of equipment. So we have a service delivery agreement in place, we have an equipment agreement in place that gives us the opportunity to bring that stuff in through a mutual agreement.
So the town actually owns it in the end?
Right.
They own that?
Yeah,
equipment?
it would migrate over to the town is what I believe would happen.
So there wouldn't be any cost in bringing that?
Right,
equipment,
it would all
those
come,
assets?
we would pick up the insurance
Okay,
on those.
thank you.
I've talked way too much.
Okay.
Let's see, what else do I have? Oh, the other thing, and Jody, please jump in on all of this. LD1, everybody's familiar with the LD1 tax cap. That was repealed and that took place in August of '24, so it's no longer in place. However, Jody and I talked about the fact of using that as a guardrail so that, and what it was really intended is so that it didn't, the proposed budget stayed within a ceiling requirement. And so in our case, we did a growth factors and all of the calculations that Jody and her team do. But we still have a $17,408,000 cushion if we were to utilize the LD1 calculations. So financially, we're in excellent shape that way. But I think it's really a good guideline, and the community has done a phenomenal job to make sure that that structure is adhered to. You'll see wage increases, and one of the things I brought up last night is there are 47 step increases across, and that's union personnel, that's personnel that are non-unionized across the board. And when you think about that, the first thing people do is, oh my gosh. But the reality is that's a wonderful thing, because that says that employees have been here and stayed here and they're progressing in their tenure. And all of those step increases will never come close to what it costs to lose people and have to hire people, and all the institutional knowledge and skill sets that you lose. So as you think about that, you know, we'll be paying for that, but that's a cost that's really very important for us to invest in. Our contracts drive a number of the wage increases. Contracts will be negotiated again a year from now. We'll be in negotiations, but they all equate to a 5% increase. And remember, those were negotiated 3 years ago. What has happened is Wells has become a very attractive location to work. So we stay and retain, and we're recruiting extremely well. We talked a little bit last night about the police department. You'll see as we go into the individual budgets later in the next few weeks. The police department requested 3 new personnel. And for great reason, because they can't recruit reserve officers. At the same time, Jody and I met with department heads and all, and we have to look at the big global budget. And so in order to contain cost, my recommendation was at the time to knock those positions out. And I've said to Chief Putnam, I will never argue against them. I just want to make sure that this body and the selectmen and ultimately the voters determine that they're willing to pay X for a tax increase. And so we went through very thoughtfully on personnel, and that's why there's only a few requests. The fire department had requested 1.2 or 3 million for a new fire truck that's due to be replaced in 3 years. The forecast is 36 to 40 months to acquire a fire apparatus of that nature. We knocked that out, putting in $275,000 into a capital reserve fund, saying let's build up toward that or look at a lease purchase program, which the fire chief's looking at now, that we may be able to put money down, lock the pricing in today, don't know, and you know, kind of hedge our bets that, you know, we'll build toward that, but pricing's only going to go up, would be my guess on manufacturing of fire trucks. So all of those things went into you know, our thought process. Jody, you wanna talk about value and how we were conservative in our
Sure.
estimation?
So in the current budget that we're in, when we did the taxes, we picked up 1.3% in value because the year before we had the revaluation, so we picked up a lot of value. All our calculations are based on us picking up 1.5% value this year, kinda similar to last year, depending on growth and what happened after April 1st. That will determine how much value my assessor actually picks up.
Well, the other areas, when we get into the transfer site, we're coming to an end with our contract with Casella. That expires June 30th. And so we're forecasting numbers, but we don't have hard numbers. We know that the cost of recycling and solid waste are going to increase and increase significantly. And the Solid Waste Advisory Committee is working to also look at those numbers. They're going to be a great asset. They start their meetings on this coming Monday. A lot of work has gone in to identifying what different providers are going to charge, to include Casella, and that work has been done by a consortium of communities whose contracts expire June 30th. We may be in a better position to go on our own negotiating with Casella or others, because Casella is located right here. Next Monday, a firm called EcoMaine which a number of communities have moved to or are moving to, and some have stepped away from. They're coming in to present for about 30 minutes to the advisory committee about how we could join them and become a member for a 30-year commitment. And so I think that's going to be something that has to be deep consideration. It's a long time commitment, but I don't wanna taint the process that we're gonna have them come in and speak. So those are areas that are escalating, and the committee will also probably look at how do you do cost offsets like you did before. If we have those types of increases, do you wanna use other ways to try to bring in revenue to offset, so it's a user fee? A lot of things in play right now.
Can I ask you a quick question? I thought we voted, the select board voted to renew Casella's 5-year contract.
That's correct.
So how can we transfer over to the Echo Main, I guess? is-
Well, they can operate that facility, but you can still use a different provider. Now, I would say that can we leverage the contract that we have with them to provide better pricing? And I think those are all things we wanna talk about offline. But there may be opportunity, but you could have another provider who's taking care of our trash and recyclables, although Casella's operating the site, that can happen. Is that the right thing? I don't know. I think we'll find out soon.
Mike,
Thank you.
last year we recommended that we did some raising of the fees for licenses and stuff.
Mhm.
Don't you think it's time that we start to dig deep into those to see? I mean, we've got campgrounds now at $1 per site, up to $100. If you were to go back and start looking at how many calls go to the campgrounds and stuff, for medical and fire and everything else, they're not paying anywhere near their share of what should be going on towards the other stuff. I think if we looked into those, we could probably raise a considerable amount of fees towards picking up some of these expenses.
Understood. There's been some significant fee adjustments in the code office, as you maybe are aware.
But that's directly impacting only the residents.
I
How
understand
about,
that.
how about the businesses that are,
That is on the list.
Yeah.
First- And the board will be meeting on Tuesday night, they'll be talking on LD 2003, and those are, so accessory dwelling units, short-term rentals, how they choose to want to advance regulating some of those or not, and all of that will involve some fee discussions, I'm sure. I think that's a brief overview.
Does anybody have any other questions about the overview? Hi, Adam. How you doing? No, it's all right.
Congratulations.
You would have said hello earlier, but you know, these guys were talking.
I wouldn't talk, shut up.
So, okay, welcome. Okay, so let's jump into our schedule and we have that, Jody's provided that, that's on, I was just looking at it again, it's on page 5 of section 1. So that's the schedule we're gonna be working with. I don't know, it is what it is. And then the issue of let's assign committee members. So tonight, and everyone's got this list, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, okay, thank you. So tonight, we're gonna do that whole first part, for tonight's meeting, we'll all do that together in a little while. But let's look at what we first is assessing. Mark, you did that last year,
I'd like to do assessing.
okay.
I haven't done it yet.
You, okay,
Can I do Harbor?
yeah, I mean, yeah, let's go down and, yeah,
Let's do it.
okay. So library, last year was Adam and Bob. I don't know, I mean, we remember trying to shake it up and have new people do things, so, but I don't also do, okay.
I'll try
Mark?
library. I'll try
Okay, who
library.
wants to do it with Mark? You can do it again?
I'll do
Okay,
it again, sure.
it's fine. Then public works and facilities, so we have 3 listed from last year, we can't do that, remember, so it was me, Brian, and Bob. I'd be happy to do it again, but if there's somebody else or,
I'll step off.
I'd like to do it.
okay.
Ron and
Ron and Dave, okay. And then local roads is the same thing, Ron and Dave.
So you'll do all of
Yeah,
transfer station.
transfer station, right. Yeah. Okay.
So Juan and Dave,
Down to public works. Alright. Alright. Are you taking, I'm writing this down too, but you're writing down, okay, thanks. Conservation Commission, for the February 12th, we had Richard and me. Richard's not here.
Adam said.
I can do
Adam, okay. You wanna do it with Richard?
Sure.
We'll just sign it. So you'll also do Conservation CIP.
Richard was looking to do public works, but he has done that before, so.
Yeah. Okay. Well, oh, we have to remember
Remember Bill?
Bill too. Bill wants to do, so we'll look ahead. Mark and Bill, we can say do Harbor together, cause Bill was interested in Harbor. I know we're not there yet. Information Center, I did it last year, but it's not much, but does anybody else wanna do it? Alright. Town Clerk, Adam, you did it last year. Anybody else?
I'll do it.
Okay. Brian?
Yep.
Okay. Then we all are doing grants and code and planning, where Ron and Bob,
That's one that, Richard hasn't done, he said he did wanna do that.
alright. So Richard and who else would like to do it?
I'll try code.
Okay. Richard and Mark.
That was on, code and planning, right?
Yes,
So Mike and Richard.
yep, Mark and Rich. Well, okay, I'm sorry, Mark, if you don't mind, Bill did ask to do code and planning as well. Would you mind if Richard and Bill did it?
No, that's fine,
Okay,
that's fine.
alright. And then that's what we'll leave Bill with. Parks and Rec, it was Richard and Bob.
Wouldn't mind
Last
doing
year.
that.
Went over Wims,
Did I go over Wims?
Miss Wims.
I didn't see it yet.
Mr. What?
Oh, Brian, I redid the schedule after you called me, so it's in your packet.
Alright.
I printed it off the email.
See, I just go with what Jody tells me, what your hands make.
Always safer.
Alright, exactly. So it was Parks and Rec were Richard and Bob. Who else somebody else would like to do that?
Wouldn't mind doing it again.
Okay. Anybody else wanna do it?
I can't do anything that week.
Okay.
Um,
I mean, I always have liked.
Richard's done
Rec.
that about 3 times.
Yeah, I like it, Mark, unless you're, or Dave, unless you're calling out for it.
Nope.
Okay, alright. So I'll do Parks and Rec. I
So it's
always-
Bob and Ron?
I always like that.
Let's see, Ron, go on.
I haven't done that in a while. Okay, Harbor, so that would be Mark and Bill. With also Harbor CIPs, okay.
Alright, so we can do have a CIPs as well.
Yes,
Okay.
yep. Same night. So then move on to fire. Okay, we had 3 assigned last year, Richard, Bob and Dave. Obviously, we can't have 3, so.
Yeah, last year I didn't do fire.
I'm happy
You
to
did
do
not.
fire as well.
Pardon?
I'd be happy to do fire.
Adam would
as well.
like to do that, okay.
Yep.
So it's, who is it?
Adam, and who else would like to do it?
I would have, if you
I'll do it
want.
with them. I'll do fire with that.
Okay, how about Adam and Dave?
Adam and Dave, okay.
And that includes EMA, fire CIPs, and I guess IT infrastructures.
That's through the
That goes
police
under
department.
police.
Department.
Okay, so.
It's on the back side.
Police department.
Oh, I didn't, oh. I'm sorry.
IT infrastructure is part of the police.
Apparently, I
Yeah.
didn't double sign it.
Okay,
So,
You can work on it.
so it's IT infrastructure, police, dispatch, public safety, townwide utilities, animal control,
and that's all police.
that's all police.
Okay, so who did it last year?
You had Brian and Adam and Dave.
Alright, so who would like to do police and all
I'd
that?
like to do police and
Dave.
the infrastructure.
Mark, Dave and
I'll
Mark?
try police.
That's a big one, so Dave, you're doing fire, right?
Yeah, but I think they all tie together.
Yeah, but you're doing too many.
Yeah.
2,
No,
I get it.
no.
whatever.
We need to spread it out though. You
Yep.
gotta get other people experience, that's all.
Okay. I'm okay, who would like to do it with Mark? Police.
Has everybody done
I've never done it.
Okay.
I'll gladly do it if you need me
Mark
to.
and Bob.
Mark them up.
That's for PD.
Yeah, and all the dispatch and everything else that
Animal control,
animal
all the-
control and,
then you have WEMS and they have a couple CIPs.
okay. Who did it last year?
Mark and
Mark
Bill.
and Bill, I think.
Okay. Just trying to see. Okay, who would like to do WEMS? Brian's obviously out.
Left field.
Yeah. I mean, I'm interested in WEMS, but I don't wanna, I'm happy to do WEMS if somebody else wants to do it.
If you want, I'll do one.
Okay, Dave and Ron?
Dave and who?
Ron,
And then, when they do public safety, they're also gonna wanna touch on beach enterprise. But the people that are doing, fire will also wanna touch on beach enterprise, just because both departments have
okay,
stuff in there.
okay.
We got dispatch.
So we remember that for 5 people, okay. Is there,
And then that's, nope, salaries, which we,
That's all.
yeah.
Okay,
Jordan, you publish an updated list?
Yeah, I'm gonna send that out to you tomorrow, all updated.
Thank you.
alright, well, that's good. I think that's the one thing I would say about this, I know some of them are bigger than others, but I wanna remind us all that we should limit our time with people to an hour.
And stay away
Maybe.
from anything with the contracts. There's
Yeah.
no sense in us even talking
Right.
about it.
We're not talking about, right, and so we're just looking we're just looking at their expenses and their operations and their CIP.
Yep.
Okay, and not their salaries.
What's the time frame as far as doing,
So it goes,
Call-
schedule.
Yeah, but I mean, call them up in sufficient advance of the
The date,
date
Yep.
to present.
you with them?
Schedule a meet and meet with them, but some are a little bigger than others, but really, let's limit this to an hour. And if there's some burning thing that takes longer than that, but not more,
When we did the police department, we were in and out of there in an hour.
Right.
And that included a tour for Tom.
And that included a tour of the facility.
so let's just make sure we do that, okay? And the other thing is as we work through, I just wanna remind, Brian will still be the person through, we all should, if we have questions and we want stuff from Jody or Mike or any, go through Brian and just have one conduit for these requests, so that we're not in a situation of multiple people asking questions, because that has happened to us, to people. You guys are all busy. What else? Anything else about that?
Yeah, our etiquette as far as asking
Oh.
questions in here, make sure that the presenters will present the budget with the department head, and then Ron, whoever's acting as
Yeah.
chairperson, will go around to everybody individually, just so we're not jumping in asking a bunch of questions while they're trying to do the presentation. Hold them to the end, because someone else might have the same question, it might get answered ahead of you anyway.
Right, we started doing that again, that was something that we had let go over time, is like letting people just ask questions, and it kinda got sloppy, so we went back to just going around the room. Everybody gets their opportunity, and that's your time to ask. If there are follow-ups, again, just ask to be called on, because I just think it's better. We do have a really good way of doing things with this interaction with department heads that not every town does.
No doubt.
Well,
But it works.
it
works very well.
It does work well, I think, yeah, I know,
I
I
said-
know
I told
you do,
you.
I know you became a believer.
I did.
I thought it was really cool the very first time I joined, and I was like, this
Absolutely.
is a very good process, so, alright. And then, let's move on, I guess, if we don't have any other questions about that, let's move to look at finance and page 19 of section 3. And total operations is down 55.9%.
So,
Tell us a little bit about that.
Sure. So
Where is it all gone?
it's all going to the HR budget that we're gonna talk about. But the telephone line is truly, that one has gone to, you'll see that in townwide utilities, for all budgets except for, code and planning.
Can I ask a question, Jody? Well, I see dollar change of 107,000, right? What two columns are you comparing?
The, FY 25 revised to the town manager proposed.
FY 25 revised, town manager, okay, thank you.
So, townwide, we went to townwide fiber. So the telephone lines in all departments have been reduced to move the money to the townwide fiber line. We did keep the telephone in code and planning because it is an enterprise fund, so they're paying for their share of that fiber bill.
Okay, so everything else is just that,
Yeah, down on agreements and contracts, just kind of to look at prior year actuals. But the personnel training, HR consultant, employee recognition, communications, collective bargaining and bloodborne pathogen, drug, alcohol, those are all HR lines.
Okay. Alright, so Dave, you have any questions? I know.
Under the Credit solar lease,
Up in the revenues.
yeah, and the revenues, how come we went from 63.9 to drop so much?
So that year they had to pay extra fees and now we're following the lease agreement.
So what is the actual lease agreement?
It is the 15,000 a year.
15,000 a year? That's not much money for that piece of property. And that's the same thing on the solar one,
Yeah,
for Littlefield?
right, you have, well, Littlefield is the 15, I'm sorry, Creditford is 37,000.
37, so that's gonna be 37,000 this year, will it go up next year?
No, it's a certain, it's kind of locked for so many years, so that's what it's projected to be next year.
Okay. Any question I have?
Just out of curiosity, the fiber optic line that's being hung, who owns that? Is that the town? Does the town own those lines now, or where are we with Spectrum, I guess, with the new
one
fiber
that-
optics, I
Yeah,
guess?
the one that's being run now?
Yes,
Yeah, no, we don't own those. So that's another provider that subscribers can hook onto if they wish. I know that they're rolling out, I think, what seems to be some attractive fees. They're pretty much aligned with the Route 1 corridor and maybe some branching out from that.
no,
But we don't own that.
are they competing directly with Spectrum, I guess?
I believe that's true, yeah.
Yeah,
Yep,
I
they
think
they
we
are
will.
just, yeah, they're another provider,
Okay, great,
absolutely.
terrific, thank you.
Once they get through the planning board.
Bob?
Follow-up question on the solar leases, how long are those lease agreements for, locked in at that price?
I'm not positive, but I can get you those two lease agreements.
Many years.
Yeah.
Just don't
A
know.
while,
I
that's
don't
what I was
wanna
wondering,
misspeak, yeah.
okay.
Two questions.
Yep.
So excise tax on vehicles, you're expecting a $300,000 increase over what Jody proposed, but 600,000 over last year, is that a good number?
We think it is. We're seeing, obviously, the price of vehicles continue to escalate and you're not seeing a lack of people buying new vehicles, are you?
No,
I just wanna make sure we're projecting a good number, and then on the expenses, audit services. So FY 24 was actually 28,000, but it looks like some of that must have carried over from 23 based on the way it
correct.
lines up, okay.
Yeah.
I just figured that, I just wanted to make sure, so the 20,000 is a reasonable number, okay?
Yes.
Anybody else? Any
Yeah,
questions?
after
Dave?
Mark's comment about the cable, the cable TV, is this strictly from Spectrum?
That is.
So what about these other providers coming in, are they gonna be paying us something?
I can't answer that. You're talking like GoNet Speed. Yeah.
I mean, Spectrum's paying us 200,000 a year, 200,000 proposal. Why is the other company gonna be able to come in and not pay anything?
We haven't, they have the right to attach, so they haven't negotiated anything, we have not been in a position to negotiate with them. And we've talked about, we have the provision in our current agreement with Spectrum that we can raise. We can raise the fees. One could speculate that if we do, they'll pass that on to the consumer. So I'm not sure that we actually come out ahead.
But that's Spectrum is what I'm
That is
saying.
Spectrum.
I'm talking about GoNet speed.
Yep, we don't have anything with them.
So why don't we though? Does Spectrum have it with GoNet speed?
I can't answer that, Dave. We haven't drilled into it.
I think we need to, because they're putting up in the town, they're gonna come into town and do business in the town, and we haven't, we're giving them our right of way to do it. And they're not paying anything, but Spectrum's paying. So I think that needs to be looked into. It's another
Okay.
place to grab some fees from.
Yeah, and I just haven't gotten to it.
Well, nowadays, cable TV is supplied by the internet.
Yeah, so if people hook onto that,
It's all
they straighten.
streaming services now.
The Spectrum.
Yeah, there may be opportunity, I don't know.
Mark, anything?
No, I was just gonna say, the internet cost for coming out of Spectrum was, I think, somewhere around $75 a month. I'm assuming that the GoNet is gonna be probably half the cost.
Okay, so you want a vote on the revenues for $854,278, alright?
No, I
No, you don't want a revenue?
I want 6,000,000.
Oh, sorry, that's the dollar change,
Yes.
I'm sorry. Sorry, sorry. 6,512,850.
So move.
Second,
Second,
any other questions? No, all those in favor?
7 million?
Thank you, Jody, for that. And for the subtotal operations, it's $84,750.
So move.
Second, okay, all those in favor? Mark? Okay. Thank you. Alright, move on to union, non-union, page 20. What do you wanna tell us about this?
So the union, non-union line, we have salaries budgeted with increases and everything, but occasionally there comes up where we have to do a salary adjustment. We're just asking for $10,000 and then we figured in FICA or Maine State Retirement or retirement. And the new one is Maine Paid Family Medical Leave, so that would be 11,520 is what we're looking for in that line.
Alright, any questions, Dave?
Nope.
Mark? Oh. No, okay. Motion for $11,520 for union, non-union,
So move.
second? Mark, all those in favor? Okay. Employee benefits 18,000,
So unemployment, it runs right around, last year was a little low, but we just try and keep the 18,000 to stay steady. We haven't used anything to date yet.
So
Okay.
move on the 18,000.
yep, okay, second?
Second.
Mark, okay, Mark, got it, any questions about it? Anybody? Okay, all those in favor? Okay, fixed charges,
Okay, so that's our debt service. We did retire a bond in the fiscal year we're currently in. So we still have 3 bonds for next fiscal year, principal and interest. So we're looking for the total of $1,719,113.
alright,
So move.
second?
Second.
Any questions? No, alright, all those in favor? Great. Insurances. $708,665. That's pretty much just what it costs, right?
That's what it is.
Alright, any questions?
I don't think we have a choice.
Yeah,
There's
take a
no
motion.
choice. So move
All right.
the $708,665.
Okay, Dave seconds, Any, okay, all those in favor? Alright, here's the page 21, human resources. So we're looking for 300 and, no, you just want the operations 28,000.
Yes,
Is this, just to be clear, this is a position that will be a specific warrant article? So,
yes.
It would be, and actually it will require, and again, I'm in concert now with Matt Tarasevich, our attorney. One of the conversations we have is that the town adopted an ordinance that reduced or took away the department. So now logistically, we have to say, can the board reinstate that ordinance? Or what steps must we take? So
and will we, later in the process, be actually taking a vote on a recommendation for that particular position?
Yeah.
you would,
Okay, that's right, I just wanted to clarify, I figured that.
We're not talking about that now, right?
No.
no,
Well, right, but do we wanna have that conversation now when, we're
I think
approving
so.
an operations budget for a position that,
I mean, we're looking at an hourly, or a salary of 110,000, what's the administrative of another 83,000?
So that one is for the HR generalist. That salary is currently in the finance budget. It would be moving to this
that's
budget.
part of how Jody reduced her budget.
And that's what we're paying already, is the 83,000?
That's with her, an increase built in for this fiscal year, yes.
so I guess what I would say is if anybody has any questions, we'll just go around the room to ask that question. It doesn't mean you can't bring something up later when we actually vote on the position, but I just ask now. Dave, do you have any other questions about the
No, that's
position?
it.
Mark, do you have any questions?
I'm just curious on the overall payroll of what the town's budget is currently.
Mark, I'm sorry, I couldn't hear your question.
No, I'm kinda curious about the overall payroll of the town budget, I mean, as far as the employees and what we're looking at.
So currently, on page 13 of section 1, our salaries for the current fiscal year are budgeted at 13,413,132. We've spent almost 7 million to date. We're proposing in the next fiscal year, if I do not include any of the positions, the new positions,
Let me get over to that, I'm trying to get over to that page, what page number you on?
page 13.
What did you say it was 13,400?
That's what you said, yeah.
Yeah, it's on the bottom of page 13 in the FY25 column.
Gotcha.
That's salaries and benefits.
Yeah.
The next column over where it says town manager proposed, if we go down to the bottom, so not including any of the new positions, cause those are currently shown up above, you're looking at 14,370,181 for salary and benefits.
That's total.
So, and I apologize as I'm looking at this agenda from
Oh, you're
tonight,
fine.
I know we're gonna be, the very next item is gonna be this.
Yeah, so we're good.
But why don't we just ask the questions? Of this budget, it's all obviously 100% increase because it's
Yeah.
new. But what's the percentage increase actually, do you know, from past expenses related to the HR function?
So am I correct, Jody, with Betsy, we're currently budgeted $85,000 for the external HR consultant. Of which Betsy's always available by phone. We might get 4 or 5 hours here on site weekly, and sometimes that's not available to us, but she is always available, I will say that. This $110,000 projection was based on a market analysis that was done across York and Cumberland counties. And that ranged anywhere from 95 to about $130,000. So we thought we'd fall somewhere close to the midpoint on that.
And it gives
So
you
you're
40
gonna-
hours of availability.
Yeah.
That would be 40 hours on site. And, not to go back to the WIMS discussion at all, but WIMS currently uses the same HR consultant, and so it may be an economy of scale by us if we do have this position and WIMS does come here, that person's overseeing all of that function.
And what I would say about, you're gonna get at least 40 hours, but we all know it's a salaried individual, so you can get more than 40 because you're not paying by the hour.
Correct, right.
So Dave, go ahead.
So that position's actually, you're budgeting 153,100?
That's correct, that's
Yeah.
fully loaded.
Yeah. So fully loaded, so the difference really is about 125,000.
Well, 85 and from 153, whatever that equates to,
Close to double.
70,000.
Yeah, it's just close to double.
Right, about a
Okay.
$70,000 difference.
Okay. Mark, do you have a question?
Yeah, just out of curiosity, how much has the medical insurance gone up for the town, I guess, how much of an increase
On health insurance,
on health insurance, yeah? Just overall.
about 5%.
I was gonna say it was almost 6
Yeah,
this
it's
year.
almost 6%
Yes.
was the cost for health insurance increase.
Unfortunately, one health insurance increases in January, so we get it for half of the year. The other insurance that we have increases in July, so we don't know, so we kind of base it off of what happened in January. And then you're also seeing in this budget a full year of the Maine Paid Family Medical Leave Act, which is 0.5% on salaries for the employer and 0.5 for the employee, except for our unions, because those are, until they come up for renegotiation, we don't charge them.
Yeah, and so
So we're
right now,
paying
we're only
1%
doing,
for those?
yeah, we're only 0.5% for a half a year right now, for employees that are non-union. Once the contracts are ratified, so we'll be in negotiation this time next year, so July 1 of '26, we'd hope will be ratified, and at that point, the unions will be contributing and will be contributing as well. So we'll expect to see some increases on that as well.
Bob?
I'm good.
Just a question on the operations, maybe this is what you're trying to get at too. When we look at the subtotal operations are broken down by like line there, is that similar to what we were experiencing pulled out in other parts of the budget? Are any of those
Yeah.
going up, down?
So other services and charges, we just gave them 1,000, not knowing, 1,000 is what I have in my budget. General training, in my budget, I have currently 6.5 staff. I'm running, I believe, 3,000 for training. We figured for 2 employees, they probably 1,000. Some of the conferences that we go to cost several $100s, so just wanna make sure we're funding them with enough training. Office supplies, we kinda just went with 2,000 when our smaller departments are running. The townwide training of 2,000 is a reduction on my side for the exact amount. Employee recognition in the current year, we're looking at 5,000, but we are in the process of changing our recognition program, so we're looking for 7,000 in the next budget year. And then collective bargaining, we're not budgeting that at all. In the current budget, we're not budgeting. And then the bloodborne pathogen, drug and alcohol, that's all the testing that we do and pre-employment screening. Currently, we're at, and that's where our background checks are in too. We're at 10,005 in the current budget, but we are doing background checks and license checks on all employees. And that costs us a little bit more money, so we're looking to go with 15 in the current, next year's budget.
What came to light is that there were seasonal positions and otherwise that town wasn't doing background screenings, and those were positions that had interaction sometimes with our younger citizens. And so now we do background screenings on everyone we hire. So a little bit of cost, but well worth it.
It's safe than sorry.
Yeah, just a quick question. When you do background screens, do you do those with another company or do you do them through the police department?
No, it goes through another company, because if you can't do them for law enforcement, unless there's law enforcement access to the building and or criminal law enforcement work, that's called a III. And so there are very tight parameters on that, so we have to use an outside company.
Go ahead.
This is for 2 people. The health insurance number, $46,000, is that that's accurate for two people in Rollinsford Church for a year?
So we are budgeting the HR director with a family plan, and the current employee is employee spouse, which is the same price as a family plan. And the cost sharing for the non-union is 85% on the town, 15% on the employee.
Thank you.
Okay, so let's take a vote on 28,000.
Move to approve the operations budget of 28,000.
Second.
I'll second.
Alright, Adam, second. Any other further questions? All those in favor? Great. So now we're gonna vote on that request that we just talked about, so I'll take a motion for the purposes.
Or you could wait, we could just discuss it now, and you can wait when we do warrant articles, however you choose, Chair.
Well, why don't we take it?
I mean, we normally go, as we go through it, we normally approve stuff, so.
So why don't we take a,
Yeah, so this is to approve the position.
to approve the position? So, anybody wanna vote, and then we can discuss if there are other further questions?
I'll make the motion and to approve the position and the funding.
Alright, any second?
I'll second.
Adam second, okay, so, any other questions on it? No, okay. All those in favor? Okay, great.
That still has to go to a warrant article.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
And then we'll vote on it again, right?
Yeah, your
At
recommendation.
least it won't be a surprise.
Yeah.
Alright, page 26, town manager. So this, no revenue, so just the operations of $240,075, right?
Yep, this is where Jody slid a bunch of things in under me,
Alright.
so.
I'm just gonna scrub this one real close.
That's how she came up with it.
Is there anything you wanna tell us about it?
So, you will notice there's a new line called consultant. That is for Mike to be able to use various consultants.
Who is it?
So this is to allow me the use of a consultant, which I am currently doing. We had a position that was the Director of Public Works. Removed from that position and became in a consultancy role. The benefit that has brought the town is, in this case, and I'll say it's Carol. Carol has worked diligently on our FEMA applications, all of the shoreline destruction and things that we all know we had over the last number of years. She works on all of those applications and charts all the progress of those. She was instrumental in the application for the NOAA grant we were awarded, which was the Drake's Island Bridge, and some salt marsh restoration, $2.9 million grant that we received, and that was in concert with personnel from the Rachel Carson Refuge as well. So Carol has been very helpful, but this is not for Carol specifically. It's just if we had the need for other services from outside services.
Is so Carol's still here on a consulting basis? Or is she, I thought she resigned.
She did, we've hired her as a consultant.
Okay.
So she's a contracted
Got it.
person to us.
Got it.
Anything else you wanna note in it?
No, I was gonna say, you'll see a reduction in the public works line because that's where Carol's funding currently is.
We just moved
We
it.
just moved it under the town manager.
Dave, you don't have any questions?
What's the part-time position at 102.3% increase?
So
Oh,
that
good.
is the recording secretary, and we are bringing in another part-time recording secretary, so the additional hours.
One of the requests we've had is for someone to be the recording secretary for ZBA and to assist them, and that may come out of legal services, but we're trying to hire a second recording secretary at Cindy's request. She's not able to make all the meetings, and she'd like to have some backup support so we can cover our meetings more effectively
But
when
shouldn't
she's
that
not.
part-time secretary come out of the enterprise fund? Because that has to do with the code enforcement?
It wouldn't be solely to code enforcement. If Cindy's not available, for example, when she's been ill, yeah. So I can't tie it directly to code.
Okay, alright.
All set.
Good.
Adam? Right?
Mike, legal fees?
Yes.
So We've already spent 76,000 this year, you're projecting 105 for a full year next year. I mean, the legal issues in the town are getting more and more, is that really enough funding for what you're gonna need?
We have legal
let
under
me
the
finish.
enterprise fund.
Especially in light of, that we need consultation on
I don't disagree, we may need consultation on
fire
that.
department, so.
The other aspect, and we're still experiencing some of that, is the beach, with Moody Beach. That was a significant impact, and we made some adjustments through the board's approval for that. It's a fair question, Brian, whether, and those costs aren't going down. We know those attorneys can be expensive, and so he's sleeping, he's not even hearing it.
I'm not there anymore with them.
They don't.
I'm not there anymore.
Um,
I don't charge by the hour.
so
Looks like we found our man.
I'm just concerned with, I mean, we've seen, I know Moody Beach was a pretty significant
Sure.
impact this year, but it seems to me that on the other boards that I'm sitting on, we seem to be referring more and more to the lawyer for
Well, and that's a fair point.
clarification on what we're doing. Even the planning board, we've asked, I think, the last 4 meetings, 3 of them, we've asked for clarification from the town attorney. So I just wanna make sure that it's covered, so that you're not running short on funds next year.
Have you normally had some kind of extra
I was gonna say,
contingency fund?
yes, we have under tab 9 in your warrant articles, we expose 75,000 from surplus
Yeah.
to be used towar's legal fees if we went over the legal.
Yeah, I thought so.
As long as it's covered, I
Thank you, Jody.
We were getting there though, jeez.
No, but I always thought there was somewhere.
I have one more thing though, we're in the process of rewriting the comp plan and then gonna be moving into ordinance review and stuff like that there, so I think we need to make sure there's plenty of money out there, because during the ordinance reviews, you're definitely gonna need an attorney on a lot of this
No
stuff.
question. No question. I do think that the current number plus the reserve that Jody referenced, I think that'll keep us where but I appreciate the concern. We know what the ZBA has asked for an attorney to be writing
Right.
over their briefs and all, and I think that's very important. Whether we add 25,000 or something of that nature, I don't know, I mean, it's
I may, maybe added in the other section, take the 75 to 100, but
correct.
we need to protect the town. You don't wanna be saying, we're gonna put that off for a while, cause we can't afford to have
No.
a legal lab.
No, we can't. That's a good
Opinion on
point.
Good point. Hey, go ahead, Kathy, you have to.
Because if there's 75,000, if we would change it to 100, if we don't use it, it doesn't get, it's not, it's just there in case.
Exactly.
Exposed, yeah.
So, yeah.
No, good point.
Alright, so let's take a motion on the 240,075.
Move to approve the subtotal of operations for $240,075.
Alright, second? Okay, Bob second. Any other questions? All those in favor? Okay, thanks.
Thank you.
Select board. What do you guys want? Alright, $6,000 for subtotal operations, motion.
Move to approve the $6,000.
Alright, second? I'll second, okay, I'll second. Any questions? Alright, all those in favor? There we go. General government, on page 27, we're talking about 75,800. Any comments about it, or anything you wanna tell us? It is what it is?
Yeah, again, you'll see the telephone line has gone.
Yep.
Reduced a little bit on the building side, just to kind of match what we've been doing. But it's just the basic running of this building.
Okay. Dave, any questions?
No, no problem there.
Bob, no. Adam, no. Brian, no. Motion on the 75,800.
Move to approve the $75,800 subtotal operations.
Second? Mark, second. Okay, all those in favor? Great. And finally, cable TV. And we're just looking for $10,000.
Just to operate the
Yeah.
studio.
Take a motion on that, 10,000?
Move to approve the $10,000 of operations for the
Okay,
cable
second.
TV.
Second.
Dave, second. Any questions now on that?
Does that 10,000 include the stipend that we're paying the people?
No,
It's
that's up,
under a
up
different
above.
budget.
The 9,007,
Yeah,
735, 34, sorry. Right
What-
above.
Right up top.
So that's just equipment then?
yes.
And when's the next equipment upgrade we're thinking about, do we know?
I don't think we're gonna need it now, we just added the assisted hearing devices, we've had a good walkthrough of that probably 8 months ago. I think we're in good shape for another year at least, probably a little bit longer than that. We'll probably do a good deep dive into it this summer to see what we need to project for next budget, if anything.
Yeah, that's a very important thing, I think,
Yeah.
studio.
Very much.
Mark, any question?
No.
Good.
Yeah, right, okay, all those in favor? Okay. All right, are there any other things we have to bring up? Well, Brian, do you wanna,
Move to adjourn.
Adam wants the second, all those in favor?
Nice job.
Thank you all.